Hey guys, tonight we slip into the flickering shadows of history, where demons, those clawed, whispering terrors, lurk just beyond the firelight. Picture yourself in a creaky, mud-walled hut. The wind is howling like a banshee outside. Every rustle could be a demon sniffing for your soul. Back then, people didn't just lock their doors. They armed themselves with rituals, charms, and a whole lot of superstition, just to keep the darkness at bay. Spoiler alert. You probably won't survive this without a few goosebumps. So before you get comfortable, take a second to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I'm curious where you're listening from tonight. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're lying in bed, eyes wide. Because sleep wasn't just rest in the ancient world. It was a battlefield. Demons, or at least the idea of them, slithered into every culture's nightmares. From Sumerian shadow beasts to medieval imps with pitchforks. Here's the mainstream fact. Around 3000 BCE, Mesopotamians etched cuneiform tablets describing Lilito, female demons who hunted sleepers, stealing breath or worse. These weren't just bedtime stories. They shaped how people lived, right down to how they arranged their beds. Always facing away from windows. Because, demons love a drafty entrance. But here's the quirky bit. Some Babylonians believed demons could be bribed. With shiny trinkets. You'd leave a polished stone or a bit of bread by your door, hoping the demon would take the snack and skedaddle. Imagine setting out a cookie for a burglar, whispering, "Take this, and don't haunt me, okay?" It's almost cute, until you realize they thought their lives depended on it. Historians still argued, were these offerings symbolic, or did people genuinely expect a demon to munch on their leftovers? Either way, you're not taking chances. You're checking under the bed twice tonight. The fear was real. And it wasn't just about bedtime. You're walking through an ancient village, the moon barely a sliver, and every shadow feels alive. People believed demons could slip into your dreams, twisting them into nightmares that left you sick or cursed by morning. To fight back, you'd whisper prayers or clutch a clay idol of a protective god, like Pazuzu. Yes, that Pazuzu, the demon from The Exorcist. But back then, he was a good guy. Sort of. The catch: you had to stay vigilant. Fall asleep without precautions. And you were basically inviting a demon to a sleepover. You're not laughing now, are you? The air feels heavier, like someone's watching. That's how it felt for them. Every night, a gamble. You'd hear stories of neighbors waking up pale, claiming a demon sat on their chest, stealing their breath. Today, we call it sleep paralysis. Back then, it was proof of evil. You'd tell yourself to stay awake, but your eyelids are drooping, and the straw mattress is creaking beneath you. What do? You reach for the oldest trick in the book, a circle of protection. Not salt. Not yet. That comes later. Maybe a line of ash from the hearth, drawn around your bed. Why? Because demons, apparently, are sticklers for boundaries. Cross that line, and they're toast. Or so you hope. The sarcasm is warranted. Because ash, really. But you're not judging. You're living in a world where the unexplained, sickness, storms, bad dreams, was blamed on demons. You'd do anything to feel safe, and here's a light joke to ease the tension. Why did the demons skip the haunted house? Too many bad Yelp reviews from ghosts. Back to the story. You're clutching that idol, whispering to it, because every little ritual feels like armor. The night stretches on, and you're wondering if dawn will ever come. But don't worry, we're just getting started. There's a whole arsenal of demon, dodging tricks waiting for you. You're still clutching that clay idol, heart thumping as the night deepens. But now, you're reaching for something simpler, something you can find in any ancient kitchen: salt. You're not just seasoning your stew. You're building a fortress. Across history, from ancient Egypt to medieval Europe, people believed salt was a demon's kryptonite. You grab a handful, coarse and gritty between your fingers, and start sprinkling it in a shaky circle around your bed. The grains catch the firelight, glinting like tiny stars, and you're hoping this barrier keeps the darkness out. It's not just superstition. It feels like survival. Here's the mainstream fact. Salt's protective power was a big deal in ancient Rome. Around 100 BCE, Romans used it in rituals called salatura, purifying homes by scattering salt to ward off evil spirits. Priests tossed it into sacred spaces, and regular folks, like you, mimicked them, dusting thresholds to block demonic entry. Why salt? It preserved food. So people figured, maybe it could preserve your soul too. Logical, right? You're not arguing as you sprinkle another pinch by the door, just in case. Now for the quirky tidbit. In some medieval villages, you'd mix salt with spit. Yes, spit. And smear it on windowsills. Gross.
Sure.
Effective. Debatable. But you're desperate. And the idea of a demon licking your window and gagging is weirdly satisfying. Historians still argue whether this was a practical ritual or just a way to feel in control when the night felt alive with malice. Either way, you're not taking chances. You're spitting into a bowl of salt, stirring it with a grimace, and hoping it's enough. Picture yourself in a drafty cottage, the air thick with wood smoke and damp straw. You're whispering to yourself, this better work. As you complete the circle, every creak of the floorboards makes you flinch. But the salt gives you a flicker of courage. It's not just about demons. It's about the unknown. A bad harvest. A sick child. A nightmare that lingers past dawn. Salt was your shield against all of it. You're not alone in this. In Japan, sumo wrestlers toss salt into the ring to purify it. Shinto priests still do it today. You're part of a long line of people betting on salt's magic. But let's be real. You're side-eyeing that salt circle, wondering if you've got enough. What if you missed a spot? You're tempted to dump the whole sack, but you need some for tomorrow's bread. Here's a joke to lighten the mood. Why did the demon hate salty snacks? They kept cramping his style. Back to the scene. You're checking the circle again, your bare feet cold on the dirt floor. The night's pressing in, and you're imagining claws scratching at the edges of your salt line. You've heard stories of demons slipping through gaps, so you're meticulous, filling every crack. The beauty of salt was its simplicity. You didn't need a priest or a fancy amulet, just a handful from the pantry, but it wasn't foolproof. You're thinking about that neighbor who swore a demon crossed her salt circle anyway, leaving her cow milkless. Was her salt too coarse? Did she skimp? You're not sure. But you're doubling down, muttering a quick prayer as you go. The fire's dying now. The shadows are stretching. And you're wondering what else you can do to keep those demons at bay. Good thing there's more to this arsenal. Charms are up next. You've got your salt circle down, a gritty perimeter sparkling faintly in the dying firelight. But you're not stopping there. Your hand drifts to your neck, where a small, heavy charm dangles, a polished stone etched with a spiral, cool against your skin. You're in ancient Greece now, around 500 BCE. And this isn't just jewelry. It's your shield against the evil eye, that jealous glare demons love to sling. You adjust the cord, feeling its weight. Because if a demon's watching, you're not giving it an easy shot. Amulets like this were your backup plan. Your portable demon repellent. And you're not leaving home without one. Here's the mainstream fact. Amulets were huge in ancient Egypt. By 2000 BCE, you'd see people wearing scarab beetle charms, carved from turquoise or faience, to ward off, Set the chaos, god who'd send his demonic minions to mess with you. These weren't just for the rich. Even laborers like you had a cheap clay version tucked under their tunic. The scarab symbolized rebirth, so you're banking on it to keep your soul intact when demons come knocking. You're rubbing it now, half praying, half hoping it's not a knockoff. Now, the quirky bit. In some parts of medieval Europe, you'd carry a hagstone, a pebble, with a natural hole through it, because demons supposedly couldn't resist peeking through. They get stuck like a cat in a paper bag. You're threading yours onto a leather thong, chuckling at the idea of a demon face planting into a rock. Historians still argue whether these stones were symbolic, or if people believe they could literally trap spirits. You're not sure, but you're keeping it close, just in case. You're walking through a dusty marketplace. The air buzzes with hagglers, and the tang of olive oil clings to everything. Your amulet bounces against your chest, and you're hyper-aware of everyone's eyes. That old woman selling figs. Her stare lingers too long, evil eye alert. You grip your charm, muttering under your breath, because demons could hitch a ride on someone's envy. It's not paranoia. It's survival. You're dodging glances like they're arrows, weaving through the crowd, your fingers brushing the stone for reassurance. The thing about amulets, they're personal. Yours might be a spiral stone, but your neighbor's got a tiny bronze fish, and the baker's swearing by a dried lizard foot. Don't ask. Your side, eyeing that one, but who are you to judge? If it keeps demons away, you're all for it. Here's a joke to break the tension. Why did the demon avoid the amulet shop? Too many bad vibes. Back to you. You're home now, sitting on your straw mat, inspecting your charm for cracks. A flawed amulet is like a broken lock, and you're not risking it. You're thinking about that salt circle from earlier. Remember that gritty line you sprinkled? It's still there. But amulets, there you're on the go defense. You're slipping yours under your pillow tonight because demons love sneaking in while you're dreaming. The marketplace gossip's got you spooked. Someone's kid fell sick after a stranger's glare. Evil eye. demon. You're not waiting to find out. You're tying the cord tighter, the spiral stone warm from your touch, and settling in. But the night's still young, and there's more to this demon dodging game. Chanting's next, and you're already practicing the words. You're still clutching that spiral stone amulet, its edges worn smooth from your nervous fingers. But now you're sitting cross, legged on the floor. Your voice is low and steady, practicing words that feel ancient even to you. You're in a dimly lit room in medieval Persia, around 900 CE, and you're chanting. Soft, rhythmic syllables meant to shove demons back into the shadows. The air smells of dust and old parchment. Your words bounce off the clay walls, each one a tiny hammer striking at the unseen. You're not just talking. You're wielding a weapon. Because back then, words had power, enough to banish what couldn't be seen. Here's the mainstream fact. Chanting was central to Zoroastrian rituals in ancient Persia. Priests recited the Avesta, sacred texts from as early as 1000 BCE, to drive away Devas, demonic spirits that fed on chaos. You're no priest, but you've learned a few lines, passed down by your grandmother, who swore they kept her safe. You're repeating them now, voice a little shaky, hoping the demons are listening. The words feel heavy, like they're pushing the darkness back. And you're not stopping until you're sure. Here's the quirky bit. In some medieval European villages, people would chant nursery rhymes. Yes, actual children's rhymes. Because they believed demons hated cheerful rhythms. You're murmuring something that sounds suspiciously like Ring Around the Rosie, half laughing at how absurd it feels. But you're not taking chances. Historians still debate whether these rhymes were secret spells or just ways to calm terrified kids. Either way, you're chanting with gusto, imagining a demon rolling its eyes and fleeing in annoyance. You're alone now. The fire's reduced to embers, and your voice is the only sound cutting through the silence. Each syllable feels like a step forward in a dark forest, pushing back the branches of fear. You're thinking about that salt circle. Remember how you sprinkled it so carefully. It's still there, a faint shimmer around your bed. But chanting, that's like locking a second door. You're picturing demons hovering just outside, their claws tapping, frustrated by your words. It's a power trip, honestly. Knowing your voice might be enough to scare them off. But let's not get cocky. You stumble over a word. Restart the chant. Because precision matters. One wrong syllable, and who knows? Maybe the demon gets a free pass. You're remembering a story from the village. A man who slurred his chant and woke up with all his chickens dead. Feathers everywhere. Coincidence? Maybe. You're not testing it. Here's a joke to ease the tensions. Why did the demon hate poetry slams? Too many bad verses. Back to you. You're chanting louder now. The rhythm is steadying your heartbeat. The words feel like they're weaving a net, trapping any demon dumb enough to linger. You're not just chanting for yourself. You're thinking of your family, asleep in the next room, trusting you to keep the night safe. In some cultures, like among the early Christians, people would chant psalms, believing holy words burned demons like sunlight. You're mixing traditions now, throwing in a line from a local prayer, because why not? The more, the merrier. The night's growing colder. Your breath is visible, but your voice holds strong. You're wondering, what else can you add to this demon-proofing toolkit? Something smelly, maybe. Like garlic. That's up next. And you're already wrinkling your nose. Your voice is hoarse from chanting. The ancient words still hanging in the air like smoke. But now, you're reaching for something new. Something that stinks so bad, even demons might reconsider their visit. You're in a creaky wooden house in Eastern Europe, maybe 15th century Romania, and you're tying a string of garlic bulbs above the door. The smell hits you like a slap, sharp, sulphurous, eye-watering. But you're grinning. Because if this doesn't scare off a demon, nothing will. You're hanging each bulb carefully, their papery skins rustling like dry leaves, hoping that pungent perfume buys you one peaceful demon-free night. Here's the mainstream fact. Garlic's demon, repelling fame, goes way back to ancient Slavic cultures. By 1000 CE, villagers used garlic in rituals, believing its smell alone was enough to banish evil spirits. It kept away pests from crops, so why not pests from hell? You're not surprised. Garlic's scent could wake the dead. Never mind scare them. You're looping another strand over the window, the cloves thudding softly against the frame. Demons, apparently, aren't fans of strong seasoning. It's practical magic, straight from the garden. Now for the quirky tidbit in medieval Bulgaria. People didn't just hang garlic. They rubbed it on doorposts and on their children's foreheads. You're picturing yourself smearing garlic juice on your little brother's face. Him squirming and whining. And you're stifling a laugh. It's messy. It's weird. But if it keeps demons from snatching his soul, you're all in. Historians still debate whether it was about the smell, or if garlic was believed to carry some vital life force. You don't know, but you're rubbing a clove into your own doorstep just to be safe. You step back. The air is thick with that biting, sulfur-laced aroma. You half expect the neighbors to complain. Remember that salt circle from earlier. It's still there. A faint shimmer around your bed. You're feeling like a full-fledged, garlic-slinging, salt-wielding demon-proofing pro. But you're not relaxing yet. The wind's picking up. The shutters are rattling. Every creak sounds like claws testing your defenses. You sniff the air again, wondering if you should have bought a few more bulbs at the market. Because it's not just about the demons. You're thinking about the old stories, how garlic wasn't just for demons, but for vampires too. Which, let's be honest, everyone figured were just demons in fancy cloaks. You're not sure where one myth ends and the next begins. But you're not taking chances. Here's a joke to break the tension. Why did the demons skip the garlic festival? Too much breathy competition. Back to you. You're checking the knots on your garlic strings, making sure they're secure. Because one loose bulb, and you're picturing a demon waltzing right in. Snorting, unimpressed. Garlic's a bold move, but it's not foolproof. You're recalling that old woman in the village. The one who swore her garlic wreath failed because she hung it upside down. Demons, apparently, are picky about presentation. You're double, checking yours, flipping a bulb right side up, just in case. The fire's low now. Shadows stretch long across the walls. and you're wondering what else you can add to your demon defense kit. You glance at the mirror in the corner, its surface catching the glow, and you're already getting that uneasy feeling. Mirrors are next, and you're hoping that isn't a doorway. You can still smell the garlic, sharp, sour, stubborn, clinging to the air like a warning. But now, your eyes are locked on the mirror propped against the wall. A small, cloudy thing. Its silver backing faded, edges chipped, the kind that doesn't show a full reflection. Just flickers of you. You're in a 17th century English village, the kind with crooked rooftops, soggy streets, and more ghost stories than church pews. And you're draping a scrap of black cloth over that mirror. Slow, careful, like diffusing a bomb. Because the glass, it feels wrong, like a doorway, to somewhere you don't want to go. They say demons can slip through mirrors. Step out grinning, teeth too long, smiles too wide. So you're not taking chances. You're covering it tight, trapping anything inside that might be watching. Mainstream fact time. By the 1300s, across medieval Europe, it was common to cover mirrors during funerals. Why? Because people believed mirrors were spirit portals. And not just for grandma's ghost, but for demons too. You're not at a funeral, but death feels close enough. So you're tucking the cloth's edges down, fingers brushing cold glass, half expecting it to ripple like water. No reflection, no demon. That's the logic you're clinging to. Here's the weird bit: in rural Ireland, folks didn't just cover mirrors, they turned them to face the wall. Why? Because demons, supposedly, couldn't handle their own reflections. They'd get confused, wander off. You're picturing a demon muttering, "Wet, is that me?" and bumbling away in shame. You're tempted to spin yours around, but instead, you're double, checking the cloth, making sure not even a sliver of glass peeks through. The fire's just embers now. You're alone, and the silence is deep, the kind that listens. That salt circle, still faintly shimmering around your bed. Garlic above the door, still pungent, and this mirror, now covered, feels like a third lock on a cursed house. You pace the room, eyes flicking to the mirror, like it might twitch if you blink too long. The night's full of tricks, and you're not falling for them. You're remembering the tale. A village girl who forgot to cover her mirror. Woke to a shadow in the glass, whispering her name. Sleep paralysis. Maybe. But you're not trusting science tonight. You smooth the cloth again, just in case. Here's a joke to lighten the mood. Why did the demon hate mirrors? It kept getting ghosted by its own reflection. You smirk. Briefly. But your hand still drifts to the water bucket. Because some say still water is just as bad. Another reflective surface, another door. You toss a rag over it, just in case. The mirror's hidden now. You feel a little safer. But the night, still pressing in, heavy and cold. You're thinking about the old legends, how mirrors weren't just portals, but traps. How you could lure a demon into the glass, then smash it, banishing it forever. You're not that brave, not tonight. So you stick with cloth and caution. The garlic's still strong. The chant still hums in your bones, and now your eyes drift to the doorframe. It's time to carve. Symbols, wards. Whatever it takes. You reach for a knife. Because the next line of defense needs to be cut into the wood. The mirror's safely cloaked now, its black glass hidden behind that scrap of cloth. The air still carries a whisper of garlic, sharp and sour, but your focus has shifted. You're kneeling by the door, small knife in hand, and the wind outside. It howls like a hungry wolf circling a sheepfold. You're in a Norse village, somewhere around 800 CE, where belief runs deeper than snowdrifts, and every creak in the wind sounds like a spirit testing your walls. Your blade scrapes against the wood. Slow, deliberate. You're carving a jagged symbol into the doorframe, a crooked arrow, its lines raw and purposeful. It's not decoration. It's a rune. A lock. A warning. A threat to anything that walks the night. Every curl of wood that falls to the floor feels like part of the fear, sloughing off, turned into something you can fight back with. Here's the grounded fact in Viking culture. Runes weren't just letters. They were spells, invocations, tiny anchors of divine energy. By the 8th century, Norse folk carved symbols like algis, a kind of stick figure with arms raised skyward, to ask gods like Thor for protection. That's the one you're carving now. You're not a warrior, but in this moment you might as well be. And you're pressing hard, digging deep. Like the deeper the cut, the louder the gods will hear it. Here's your folklore twist. In early medieval Scandinavia, some didn't stop at carving. They painted their runes with pig's blood. Why? Because blood meant life, and life, they believed, scared the dead. You're not reaching for blood, not tonight, but you've got a clay pot of red ochre. You dip your fingers in. It's thick, earthy, smelling of iron and soil. You smear it across the rune, watching it glow rust, red in the firelight. Some say the pigment channels energy. Some say the color alone makes demons flinch. You're not picky. You're smearing on extra. You rise to your feet, wiping your hands on your tunic. You glance across the room. The salt circle still rings your bed. Garlic still hangs from the door. The mirror sleeps behind its veil. And now this rune. It's your gatekeeper. A symbol etched in stubborn wood to say not tonight. Not here. Outside. The wind slams hard against the door. And for a second, you expect claws to tap back. You remember an elder's story. A traveller once forgot to carve a rune. Woke to hoofprints circling his camp. No sound, no beast. Just the prints and a silence that rang louder than any scream. Demon, prankster, doesn't matter. You're not skipping steps. You run your fingers over the carving, checking for flaws, because a crooked line could be an open window. Here's a joke to break the tension. Why did the demon skip the rune party? It couldn't crack the guest list. You chuckle, but you keep the knife in hand, wondering if one symbol is enough or if you should add a second rune, just to be sure. Then you notice it scratches on your neighbor's doorposts. Crosses, spirals, crude stars. Everyone's fighting the dark their own way. You're not alone in this. The whole village is built on fear and fortified with faith. You wonder, should you have paid the seer to bless yours? Too late now. The air's colder, the frost is creeping in, and the shadows, they're heavier. It's time to move to the next line of defense. Herbs. Burned, crushed, or bundled. You're already sniffing the air, wondering what will burn best to send the demons running. You step back from the door. The rune you carved still glows faintly. A sliver of ochre defiance etched into the wood. Its energy hums under your skin. The garlic above the door clings to the air, pungent and sharp. But now the smell is shifting. You're crouched by the hearth in a 16th century Scottish cottage, fingers digging through a woven basket of herbs. Your hand closes around a bundle of dried sage, its leaves brittle, silvered at the edges. You crush them between your palms. They crumble like old paper, and the scent rises earthy, dry, ancient. You drop the leaves into a clay pot sitting over the fire. They hiss, they curl, then they smoke. Here's the known truth: by the 1400s, burning herbs, especially sage, was a go-to purification ritual across medieval Europe. They called it smudging before the word existed, a sacred practice, a fumigation of the soul. Sage was the favorite. Folk believed its smoke could banish evil spirits, cleanse the air, and scrub away unseen filth. You fan the smoke with a worn cloth, waving it into corners, beneath beams, behind shelves, into cracks where shadow gathers. Your eyes sting. The room thickens with haze. But you don't stop. Not when the night outside still presses cold against the walls. Here's your twisted gem from history. In some parts of medieval Germany, they didn't just burn sage. They blended it with mugwort and a pinch of salt. Yes, salt again. Your old ally, still circling your bed like a watchful eye. Some said the blend disoriented demons. Others swore it gave the smoke more bite. Historians debate if it was spiritual science or medieval fibres for stinky houses. You're not here to debate. You're reaching for salt. A little pinch, tossed into the pot. The smoke spits, then swirls sharper. As if even the fire knows this isn't just tradition. It's defense. Now you're walking slowly through the room, pot in hand, smoke trailing behind you like a cautious ghost. Every doorway gets a waft. Every corner gets a warning, because demons don't knock, they seep. You think of your rune, fresh and red. The garlic above the door, still defiant. The mirror draped in cloth, quiet behind its veil. And now this smoke, it's your breath weapon, your air-borne shield. Then the floor creaks, sharp, sudden. And your heart stumbles. You nearly drop the pot. Just the house settling, you mutter. You lie. But you keep moving. You remember a tale from the market. A farmer skipped his smudging. Next morning, his cows stood dumb and dry. No milk, no sound. Just fear in their eyes. He swore it was demons. You don't doubt him. You throw more sage in the pot. The smell thickens. Garlic and ash and sacred smoke, blending like a herbal walkery. Here's your joke to cut the fear. Why did the demon hate the herb garden? Too many sage decisions. You grin, but your grip tightens around the pot, just in case. The air is thick now. Your lungs protest. You cough once, twice, but you keep fanning the smoke. You think about other herbs: rosemary for memory, thyme for courage, lavender for peace. But sage. Sage is what your mother taught you, and her mother before her. You trust the line. The fire's low. The room is a soft blur. But you feel safer. Not safe. Just safer. Because the night isn't finished. It never is. You glance down at your boots. Worn, cracked at the heel. And you wonder, can shoes keep demons out too? Turns out, yes. And that's what you're reaching for next. The smoke still coils through the room. Soft trails of sage threading with garlic and ash. But now you're down on one knee by the door, holding your worn, out leather shoes. You're not lacing them up. You're laying them down, toes toward the wall, soles in the air, like some backwards shrine. The leather creaks, stiff and cracked, the laces limp as tired tongues. It's not fashion, it's folklore. You're not sure if demons really check your footwear before stealing your soul. But you're not about to find out. The known history. In 17th century Germany and scattered corners of England, people believed demons could track you by following your footprints. The solution: flip your shoes. Turn them around. Leave them just wrong enough to confuse whatever watches the doorway. It was like hiding in plain sight. A quiet spell in cracked leather. You're following that tradition now, arranging each shoe like a puzzle piece meant to mislead. It's absurd. It's brilliant. It's just logical enough to work. Here's your quirky gem from the archives. In certain Dutch villages, folks took it further. They stuffed their shoes with straw or dried sage, or even little herbs from the hearth, to ward off evil with both misdirection and scent. You like that idea? It's got flair. You reach for the basket again. Not sage this time. You're saving what's left, but a twist of rosemary, sharp and fragrant. You tuck it into the left shoe. It peeks out like a charm, not for style, for safety. You rise to your feet, hands on your hips, and scan the room. There's the salt circle, still pulsing around your bed. The rune on the door, etched deep with ochre. The mirror, smothered in cloth. The smoke, thick and watchful. And now, these shoes. Your oddest weapon yet, but you're imagining it. A demon creeping in, pausing, confused by the soles and angles, unable to find its path. You smirk. Then the wind slams a shutter, and the smirk dies. You don't laugh long in houses like this. You recall a story from the tavern. A cobbler, young and drunk, forgot to flip his shoes one stormy night. Next morning, his tools were scattered. His workbench scratched, like something with claws had paced across it. Demon or cat? You're not willing to bet your life on feline mischief. You adjust your shoes, nudging them slightly, making sure they're crooked just right. Misaligned, misleading, magical. Here's a joke to calm your nerves. Why did the demon trip over the shoes? It didn't see the sole purpose. You let out a breath, almost a laugh, but your eyes never leave the door. Shoes, you're learning, aren't just for walking in this world. You've seen neighbors hang them above fireplaces, leave singles at thresholds, even bury them under floorboards. Warding tools, decoys, marks of protection. Your aunt. She always flipped hers, and she's outlived every plague the village whispered about. You're sticking with her method. It feels right. Feels clever. You wonder, briefly, if polishing them might help. Would a shiny boot blind a demon? Or just attract it? Does evil like clean shoes? No one knows. The night presses in. Every sound cracks louder than it should. Your walls feel thinner. Your breath feels louder. But your defenses are holding. Salt, garlic, runes, sage, shoes. And now you're thinking. Sound. It's time to shake the silence. Rattle the dark. You're reaching for bells. Because some things need to hear you're not afraid. Even if it's a lie. The shoes are flipped. The rosemary's tucked. The sage smoke still clings to the rafters like a warning left in the air. Now you reach for the bell. Brass. Small. Hung on a fraying leather cord by the hearth, its surface worn smooth by years of use, its chime poised to slice silence in two. You're in a 14th century Tibetan village, perched on a mountainside where the wind speaks in tongues. The air here is thin, sharper. The kind of air that lets spirits walk lighter. The kind of night that listens back. You lift the bell and give it a single shake. A clear, piercing tone cuts through the hush. Not loud, but alive. A note that feels too clean for a world this old. You're not just making noise. You're carving space, drawing a line that shadow things can't cross. The history. By the 8th century, Buddhist monks across Asia were ringing bells in sacred ceremonies, believing the sound disrupted evil and purified space. To them, the vibration itself was holy, a ripple that scattered the impure. You're not a monk, but you're holding your own bell now, its brass sides etched with tiny prayers you can't read but trust anyway. You ring it again, slower this time. Ki-im. The echo trails across the stone walls. You imagine demons flinching, claws over ears, retreating with a snarl. The odd tidbit. In alpine villages of medieval Europe, they hung bells on their livestock. Why? To keep the demons from cursing the herd. A cow with a bell was like a mobile exorcism. A sheep with rhythm, practically sacred. Some say it was just to find animals in the fog. Others believe it was deeper, a way to confuse and repel whatever hunted in the dark. You picture it now. A demon slinking through a pasture, only to be driven mad by the clang of 20 tiny bells. You ring yours again, smirking despite yourself. You're pacing now, bell in hand, each chime deliberate. The salt circle still protects your bed, but it feels like a memory. You're at the front lines now. Runes at the door, garlic in the beams, smoke in the walls. This bell is your voice against the dark. You ring it near the door, the windows, even the chimney. You've heard stories. Demons are clever enough to slither down where the warmth goes up. You ring louder. It echoes like a heartbeat, louder than your fear. A traveling merchant once told you of a family who forgot their bell one night. They woke to a cold hearth, coals dead, warmth stolen. They swore something snuffed it out, not wind, not chance. You're not taking that chance. You're shaking the bell harder now, fast enough that the cord cuts into your wrist. The chime is sharp, almost angry. Here's a joke to keep your pulse steady. Why did the demon skip the bell concert? It couldn't find its pitch. You grin. But your grip stays white, knuckled. You start to notice the bells. All of them. Tiny charms on doorways. Strings of copper tied to shrines. One even dangling from a child's belt like a guardian laugh. This isn't just your ritual. It's the village's rhythm. A shared resistance. You're not alone in ringing against the dark. And somewhere out there, other bells are answering. Soft and distant. A metallic chorus across the mountains. You're tempted to hang yours above the door, let it sing for you while you rest. But not yet, because the night isn't over. Not until you light it up. There's a stub of wax on the table, wick still curled, waiting to burn. Candles are next, because light, in the right hands, is louder than any sound. The bell's chime still clings to the rafters, a dying echo trembling in the cold. But now you're at the wooden table, its surface warped by age and prayer. You're striking flint to steel, hands cold, sparks stubborn. 3 strikes, then 4, until ignition. The beeswax candle catches. A stuttering flame dances to life. Tiny but fierce, its light slicing into the gloom like a dagger into soft flesh. You hold your breath as it steadies, then nestle it into a clay holder, the kind with soot marks from long, forgotten nights. You're in a 12th century French village, a place where silence is loud and the dark feels predatory. This isn't just about illumination. You're not lighting a room. You're drawing a boundary, the fact. By the 1100s, blessed candles were already embedded in Christian ritual, held aloft in baptisms, funerals, exorcisms. The belief light is divine, darkness demonic. A lit candle was proof that God had not looked away. You're no priest, but your candle came from the local chapel, dripped from sacred wax, sprinkled, supposedly, with holy water by a monk who wouldn't meet your eyes. You place it near your bed, beside the salt circle. Remember that. Still whole. Still silent. Still waiting. The flame flickers. The room shifts. Shadows recoil. You hope it stays that way. The odd truth. In some Welsh villages, they carved crosses into their candles, believing the symbol doubled the warding power. You don't hesitate. You grab a nail from the hearthside and scratch a shaky cross into the wax. The candle trembles, but it holds. You're carving deeper now, chips falling like yellow snow, not because you're devout, but because you're afraid. Historians argue. Was it superstition? Or devotion? You don't care. You're not skipping steps tonight. The light glows warmer now. You feel it on your face. A soft brush, like a hand that means you no harm. Your defenses hold. Garlic above the beam, rune at the door, sage smoke still curling in corners. Shoes flipped, bell silenced, salt circle unbroken. A fortress of folklore. But still, you're jumpy. The wind howls through cracks in the wall, and each candle flicker looks like something reaching. You recall a story. The priest once, said a family's candle went out at midnight. By morning, their bread wouldn't rise. Demons curse. You believe it. You really do. You cup your hand near the flame, not touching. Just sheltering. You're staring into the flame now, trying not to blink, because every time you do, you fear it'll be gone. Light has always been fear's oldest enemy, and demons, whatever they are, fear being seen. Here's a joke, because you need one. Why did the demon avoid candlelit dinners? Too much mood lighting. You let out half a chuckle, but your eyes never leave the wick. You think about lighting another. But wax is precious and fear is expensive, so you stay with this one, your carved cross glowing soft. Candles aren't just for light anymore. They're part of the language now. A signal. A contract. A flare in spiritual warfare. You've heard whispers of other tricks. Drip wax on the threshold. A seal demons can't step over. Burn a candle till dawn. If the flame survives, so do you. But tonight, this one stub is your flag in the darkness. You feel the weight of the night pressing in. The wind bites. The room holds its breath. And you know, you're not done yet. Because light holds the dark at bay, but it doesn't satisfy the thing behind it. Some say the only thing demons respect is an offering, and you can already feel it. Something old, something watching, waiting for what comes next. The candle's flame still flickers behind you, its soft glow holding vigil in your room. But you're not in that room now. You're outside, beneath a starless sky, on the edge of a Mesopotamian village, circa 2000 BCE. The night has no moon. The earth is dry and cracked. and in your hand, you lead a goat by a frayed rope, its hooves clicking like a clock counting down. This isn't just a walk. It's a bargain. You're heading toward the stone altar, low and ancient, dusted in old ash and older promises. The air smells of reed smoke, blood memories, and dread. You're here to make an offering. Not out of faith, but out of fear. The fact, animal sacrifice was the heartbeat of ancient Mesopotamian religion. By 2500 BCE, priests offered goats, sheep, even doves, not just to gods, but to restless spirits, and worse. Demons weren't always fought. Sometimes they were fed. You're not a priest, but you've seen the rites. You know what must be done. Tie the legs. Whisper the name. Spill the blood. Speak the prayer. You stroke the goat's warm side, murmuring a mix of sorrow and hope. This is a grim currency, but one you're willing to pay. The strange truth. In some Sumerian homes, they buried animal bones beneath thresholds, marking the house as paid in full. It was like placing a celestial receipt under the doormat. Historians debate, was it spiritual, symbolic, sanitary? You don't care. You're already planning which bone to save, which corner of your home to dig into later tonight. Now you're at the altar. The knife in your hand feels older than you, its edge cold with expectation. You hesitate, just for a moment, but the wind picks up. Unnatural and sharp. Like a breath against your spine. You begin the chant. You don't know all the words, but you say them anyway, because meaning matters less than intention. You cut. You catch the blood. You pour it into the offering bowl, the stone hissing like it remembers. The goat slumps. The earth seems to sigh. You say your prayer again, louder this time. A plea. A warning. A promise. Take this. Leave us. You remember a tale from the marketplace, a farmer who scoffed at the rituals, refused the offering. His flock was gone by dawn. No tracks. No bodies. Just the sound of laughter on the wind. Disease, they said. But no one believed it. You're not that farmer. You're already digging a hole in your mind, visualizing where the bone will go. Here's a joke, because you need it. Why did the demon take the goat? It wanted a fuffling snack. You wince. But humor is your last shield, and the night doesn't laugh back. Sacrifice isn't always blood. You've seen other villagers leave bread, beer, even wildflowers, at the smaller shrines tucked into alleyways and cliff hollows. Some whisper names. Others offer tears. But you chose the goat, because that's what your elders taught you, and most of them are still breathing. The altar now looms behind you, dark and heavy with fulfilled debt. The air is colder. Your shoulders feel watched, and your defenses, salt, bell, candlelight, runes, are suddenly comforting, but incomplete. You're gripping the knife tighter now, because the offering is made. But what if it wasn't enough? You're already thinking of the next safeguard. Blades beneath pillows, iron beneath the bed, and maybe, just maybe, sleeping with your back to the wall. Because the blood is gone, but the night is still here. The knife is tucked beneath your pillow, its cold edge a silent contract. If something enters your dream, you'll meet it halfway. The candle's flame guttered a while ago, but the scent of wax, sage, and old fear still lingers. Now you're tying sinew into circles, your fingers working in rhythm with your heartbeat. You're crafting a dream catcher, not for beauty, but for war. You're inside a 17th century Iroquois longhouse, the night outside dense as pitch, the air thick with cedar smoke and spirit breath. You don't speak, not even to yourself. Words might weaken the web. You tie each knot with a name: shadow, sickness, silence that breathes. The fact. Dream catchers were born in the hands of the Ojibwe, spun from strands of belief and spiders' wisdom. By the 16th century, they were woven to trap nightmares, letting only the good pass through. Bad dreams, caught like flies, burned away by the morning sun. You're not Ojibwe. You're not even sure the spirits know your name. But you're weaving anyway. Because tonight, it's not just dreams at risk. It's your mind. The strange truth. Some Great Lakes tribes added bones or beads, small, meaningless shapes meant to confuse demons. Like tossing pebbles into the stars and saying, "Good luck finding your way now." You're adding a bone bead, taken from the goat you offered hours ago, threading it into the web's heart. You smile grimly, imagining some demon squinting at it, muttering, "Which one's the exit?" Historians argue decoration or invocation. You don't care. You're counting on chaos to do what clarity can't. You step back, studying the web as it sways in the longhouse draft, its shadow dancing across the beams like a net cast over the stars. Behind it, your defenses stack like bricks. Salt circle, garlic and runes, candle wax, sacrificial bone, steel under your pillow. This dream catcher, it's the last line. The thin membrane between sleep and something much worse. You imagine claws snagging in the threads, snarls muffled in silk, a shadowed thing caught mid-lurch, its voice stuck in its throat. You whisper a thank you. To whom? You're not sure. The web knows. You remember a story from an elder, a child who didn't hang her web that night. Woke up screaming, said something had whispered to her, not in words, but in intent. Demon. Nightmare. Madness. You're not flipping a coin to find out. You check the knots again. Twice, then once more. Here's your tension breaker. Why did the demon hate dream catchers? It kept getting stuck in a bad dream job. You laugh, quiet and fast, the way you laugh in a graveyard. Dream catchers aren't just charms. They're maps, nets, promises. You've seen them hung over cradles, in doorways, around the necks of travelers who never sleep twice in the same bed. But this one is yours, your guardian, your wager. The fire is dying. The longhouse is silent, and your eyelids are heavy. You lie down slowly, the web above you trembling in the faint wind. But even as your body surrenders to rest, your thoughts move ahead. Because you know the next layer in your fortress isn't stitched or sung. It's moonlight. And if the sky clears, you're ready to catch that silver thread and weave it into your last defense. The dream catcher sways faintly above your head, its feathers unmoving, but your breath feels caught in its threads. The fire has dimmed. The longhouse sleeps, but you do not. You're being called, drawn like tide to moon, to the narrow slit in the wall where the moonlight spills in like poured silver from some divine chalice. You rise slowly, silently, like a shadow breaking loose from your own body. Now you're barefoot on the cool Celtic earth. The year is somewhere around 950 CE, and the air hums with the life of things unseen. The owl calls, the crickets murmur, and overhead the moon reigns alone. In your hands a shallow stone bowl, water still and quiet as death, until the moon touches it. and it blooms with light. You're not just standing in moonlight. You're using it, wielding it. You're about to cast the final charm in a night built entirely of them. The fact, the ancient Celts revered moonlight as a cleanser, a purifier of spirit and space. By 500 CE, druids and folk healers used moonlit water in rituals to drive out evil, not with swords or fire, but with reflection and silence. You are not a druid, but your bowl glows just the same. You kneel. You whisper a half-remembered prayer from an elder, old syllables, soft and rounded, each one exhaled like an offering. The water shivers in your hand. You hope the spirits are listening. The strange detail. In some Irish villages, people tossed moonlit water across thresholds, believing it burned demons like acid. Left them writhing, smoking, clutching at the doorframe, unable to enter. You dip your fingers. You flick the first few drops. Hiss. In your mind's eye, a clawed thing flinches. Historians debate if it was symbolic or poetic. You don't care. You're soaking the lintel. You circle the longhouse. Slow, deliberate. Each corner sprinkled with silver. Every step a prayer. Every drop a seal. That salt circle back by your bed, still unbroken. The garlic, runes, goat bone, dream catcher, knife, all still in place. This moonlight is the final layer, the crown of your defense. Light against dark, clarity against chaos. You move like a warding spell in human form. You pause, a rustle in the trees. You freeze, bowl gripped tight, until you realize it's only a branch swaying in the wind. But your heart doesn't slow, because you remember the story, the one they whispered during winter feasts. A woman who skipped the moon right and woke to curdled milk, knotted thread, and something breathing beneath her floorboards. You finish the circle. The bowl is nearly empty. You speak your final words, soft as mist, sharp as iron. Why did the demon dodge the moonlight? It didn't want a glowing review. You chuckle. It's weak, but it breaks the tension. You're back inside, bowl on the floor, hands trembling. The clouds roll in. The moon fades, but the glow remains in your memory. You lie down. The dream catcher sways. The knife rests cold beneath your pillow. The fire is just a memory in ash. You close your eyes and wait, but nothing comes. No claws, no whispers, no watchers from the dark. Only quiet, only breath, only the hum of a night finally calmed. You drift, not with fear, but with ease. The kind of ease that only comes after a war you won with every part of yourself. The moonlight lingers behind your eyelids, soft and unwavering. The demons have retreated. The fortress holds. You are safe. You are wrapped in your own ritual. You are, finally, at rest. Sweet dreams.